Welcome to Real Estate U with Lettiann.
Hey everyone, welcome back to our podcast, Real Estate U with Lettiann. And today we have Kyle Steppe with Hemp Co. I did pronounce your name correctly, right?
You did,
Yay.
yes, thank you.
I've fumbled that before, so I got it right, Steppe.
Yeah.
So Kyle is owner and proprietor of locally owned Hemp Co. Downtown Overland Park. You have a great shop down there. And Kyle and his wife are the proprietors there. They have the most darling family. And if you follow Kyle and Heather on social media, you'll see their darling kids. And they're expecting their fourth
Yeah.
in February. So congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So Kyle graduated from K-State in 08?
2008, yeah.
Wonderful. So you were not, you didn't go to school for agriculture or anything like that. So
I did not, yeah. Interestingly enough, my great-grandfather was a professor at the school for agriculture, but I did not follow that route. I went psychology. I loved kind of the mind and figuring out why we are the way we are. And so that's where I was and graduated. And then I spent 6 years in corporate America. I was doing corporate recruiting for engineering and did that for a little while, and then decided that I was done with corporate America and quit, and have been working for myself ever since.
Where did CBD come into play? Because, well, the mind-body, I mean, you said like psychology doesn't play a factor, but really the mind-body are so related. And I know you're big in your yoga practice, and you say you practice yoga every day, which is great. Where did CBD come about?
Yeah, so for us, CBD came about. I've always been a big proponent of cannabis. In college, kind of was introduced to it and was smoking marijuana, and and then kind of had this paradigm shift though, where I tried my first bottle of CBD a few years ago, and it was helping with anxiety, depressions that I had, as well as some early onset arthritis I had from an old football injury. And it was just working really well, and it was kind of this paradigm shift away from the high and just the benefits that you could get from the CBD without needing the high, I guess.
How many years ago was that?
So that would have been about 2.5 years ago.
Okay, so two and a half. And that's sort of when this was coming about. And, of course, if any of you have gone to Colorado, you go see your bud tender and you learn all about, indicas and sativas and hybrids and also CBD. Yeah. So I was educated there about the benefits of all of those different kinds of things. And what prompted you to say, hey, this is a business that I'm interested in and I'm going to be able to help other people. Let's
Yeah, I think it kind of went back to my burning desire. When I got my degree in psychology, originally I wanted to go on to be a counselor and be able to help people. And, life kind of happened. When I graduated, it was in the great, kind of the height of the depression, not a lot of opportunities out there. And so I just went into a sales role and kind of, stayed there for 6 years or so, and until I figured out, hey, this, I have options. This is what I have to do. And so I started working for myself. And then when CBD came along, I was kind of looking for that next thing. I had checked off a couple other things on my business to-do list, I guess. I actually flipped houses for a little while, so in the real estate.
Great.
And so I had a couple successful flips, and I was like, okay, that was really tiring work. I think I'm done with this. Let's find something else to do. And so, I was taking CBD, and it just seemed like a great opportunity. At the time, only 5% of Americans even knew what it was. When I was taking it, I was like, God, we got to get this out to people. Like, people need to know that this is an option. And so kind of spurred the idea there.
And they still need to know. So that was just about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So, but there's a lot of confusion around CBD. A lot of confusion. What do you hear the most as far as negativity? So are you hearing, let's get rid of the negativity first.
Yeah.
So people are like, oh no, CBD, oh, it's weed, oh, it's THC, oh, it's marijuana,
Sure.
oh, it's illegal.
Yeah, I will say even in the last year, that paradigm has really started to shift quite a bit, where people are starting to figure out that CBD is not going to get you high. It's almost like taking an Advil or a Tylenol in some aspects. And so it's kind of transitioned into, okay, well, what's this going to do for me? It's not going to get me high, but It can help with my anxiety. It can help with my arthritis. It can help with my irritable bowel syndrome. There's just so many different things that it can actually help with. And so it's kind of figuring out, what is going to work best for each person and how they can utilize the products.
So education is key. We've kind of talked about that all day. And because I've been to your shop several times, and I know you and Heather. And Heather, she's a wealth of information. She's a commercial every time you ask her a question.
Yeah.
She's passionate about it. She knows the answer. She knows where it comes from. So someone comes into your shop and maybe they see this podcast and they reach out to you and say, I've got this terrible arthritis. What do you recommend? Because, there's tinctures, which is, Kyle can explain, but then there's creams.
Those would be the tinctures there. That's our mint one there. We also have it in natural. And then there's the cream. So the cream is going to help from an external standpoint. So if you have, let's say, sore elbow, or you've got, tennis elbow, or you have a hip or a joint that just constantly kind of gives you nagging pain, the lotion is a great topical that's going to pinpoint that specific area.
It's my favorite product. I have this in my cabinet in my bathroom, and I have arthritis in my neck, especially before bed. And it's so soothing. It does have a cooling element as well. Mm-hmm. But it's my favorite product in this. And of course I have the tincture as well. And tincture, for those of you who don't know, because I really didn't know when he kept talking about tinctures, I don't know, 8 months ago, I'm like, dude, what is that? He said, put it under your tongue. So it's a dropper with oil, and it's usually MCT oil.
We use organic MCT oil. There's a lot of other carrier oils out there. We find that the MCT is the most pure, and it's a good fat content to get
healthy fat too.
CBD. So essentially the way that the CBD works is it needs a fat to get it across the blood-brain barrier.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep. And so that's why you want to have it in an MCT oil. There's some people will put it back in hemp seed oil, which we actually started out. We did that, and it was kind of the learning curve of the industry. And we figured out that that can call, because all of our products are THC free, and the hemp seed oil can actually cause false positives on drug tests. So we decided to remove that, and then coincidentally, it actually made the product taste so much better too. Because a lot of times people will try and they're like, ooh, that tastes really, earthy or hempy, or just kind of, some people will almost describe it as rancid. And so taking that out and putting it in the coconut oil or the MCT oil, it's just a real clean taste to it.
I don't think there's any taste.
Yeah, there really isn't. So,
and I use that to help me sleep. Mm-hmm. So we talked about, I think it comes in 250 milligram, or 250, 500, and 1,000.
Yep, those are the ones that we currently have. Yeah. And we're actually working on an extra strength one that we'll be rolling out here soon for more of the higher chronic pain folks that are on chemo for cancer that need just a higher dose. And so we're gonna come out with another bottle that can help suffice that.
Okay, someone going through chemo. Or anything for that matter, bad hip or any of the other things that you help people with, what happens to them when they take the tincture?
Yeah, so when they take the tincture, it's just going to help all the inflammation that's going on within the body.
Like you said, like an ibuprofen, an Advil, something like that?
Yeah, essentially. And so it can also kind of help with some of the appetite suppressant too that occurs with the chemo.
Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of people, they feel like they can't eat, or when they do eat, they end up throwing up or having just kind of issues with that. And so it can kind of help subside some of those, negative effects from the chemo.
Would you say it's an appetite stimulant a little bit, or it just sort of soothes that function? Yeah,
I wouldn't necessarily call it a stimulant per se, but yeah, it can just kind of alleviate some of the symptoms that allow them to eat.
Got you. So, if it needs oil to help we haven't gotten to the word receptor yet, the receptors in our body, which I just learned something very awesome before we started this that Kyle can share with us. But the gummies, is there fat in them?
Yeah, so the gummies have, there is fat content in there.
Okay.
And then it's also an isolate too.
What's that mean?
The gummies are an isolate product. So there are three different products, or three different types of CBD products. So you have a full spectrum, which is going to have the THC in it. Then you have a broad spectrum, which typically they take out the THC. So like that's how ours are made, where the extraction through the supercritical extraction process, they take out that THC in there, so there's none detectable. And then there's isolates. So an isolate is straight CBD. And when I say, okay, let's back up. The broad spectrum has, you have there's hundreds of cannabinoids, and CBD is just the main one that we talk about. So you have CBG, CBN, CBA, CBV. There's all these different cannabinoids that do different things. And the exciting thing is all the studies that are going to be done currently that we're going to find out more about these other cannabinoids outside of just CBD. But CBD is kind of that main star of the show that we always talk about. And so it's part of the broad spectrum. And then the isolate is where they isolate that exact component or that compound, and you get it in just a powder form. I don't have any here to show today, but our gummies are actually made with the isolate.
Awesome. I also see some dog products.
Yep.
So this is new. I hadn't seen this.
We actually just brought those back by popular demand. We had those this time last year, and then we ran out of stock and we didn't re-up, and then everyone kept asking us about them, and so we've actually brought them back, and they're a fan favorite for the dogs for sure.
Thunderstorms, all kinds of fireworks.
Thunderstorms, if you have a dog with hip dysplasia or some sort of old, arthritis, it can just kind of help alleviate some of those. Interestingly enough, canines have twice the amount of endocannabinoid receptors as humans do. So
let's talk about what those are, because that's going to circle back to what you kind of brought up earlier with Andy. Receptors, so I'm picturing receptor open.
Yeah, so it's kind of a lock and key system. So the CBD is the key, and your endocannabinoid system is the lock. And so the CBD kind of binds with that receptor and opens it up, just allowing homeostasis through the body is kind of the way it works. And so the endocannabinoid system was actually found in, I think it was 1996, was when it was discovered. And so we didn't even know about this system until, a little over 20 years ago. And it was discovered over in India, and it's took a while to make its way over here to the United States. But yeah, it's a really interesting system. So the endocannabinoid system actually interacts with our peripheral nervous system, central nervous system, basically all of the other systems within our body that help kind of bring everything into homeostasis. And so the endocannabinoid system, what it does is it interacts with all of those, kind of balancing everything out. So whether it's neurological inflammation that's causing you anxiety, or a back problem that's causing you inflammation that's causing arthritis, it works with all of those different systems to bring the body back to homeostasis.
This is like genius. I mean,
it's pretty incredible.
It's a lot to learn, and I can see how you'd want to know more, and then you get involved, and wow, how can this help people? I think that's great. Do you think that the effects vary from person to person?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So, and with that said, CBD works in about 80% of people. So there is, a number of population that they don't see a whole lot of results for. And so it just kind of depends. Everyone's system is different, which also makes dosing a little bit difficult to pinpoint down for people as well, because it's not necessarily, how much you weigh, how tall you are, if you're a man, if you're a female, as to how much you need to be taking. And so we always recommend starting lower and working your way up until you kind of find that right dose for you. So obviously, currently it's still a pretty expensive product, supply and demand right now. I think in the next couple of years, we'll see the prices come down on CBD quite a bit, which would be great, just from an accessible standpoint for all of the community.
And what's great is, if you notice, it's all Casey Hemp Co. labels here. So this is your product. So he's not bringing in other product from a third or second or even second party. So, and all of these products are organic.
Yes, they are all organic, and we manufacture them here locally in Kansas City as well.
That's awesome. So, and I remember talking to you about Colorado. Is there a place where it's being grown for you? Or?
Sure. Yeah. So right now we get all of our raw product from Colorado. Kansas started growing it this year. They're actually right now in the midst of their first harvest.
Where is that harvest, by the way?
Yeah, so I think there was I think there was about 200 farmers in Kansas that were growing hemp this year.
Okay.
It was kind of a crazy weather year for us, though, as far as the rain and everything. And so I'm still not 100% sure how all the crops are coming out so far. I haven't seen any initial numbers yet. But eventually we do hope to start sourcing it all locally as well. We won't do that until we see lab reports and make sure that everything is up at the standards that we're getting it from in Colorado, though.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, is a hemp plant different than a marijuana plant?
Yeah, so it's kind of a ambiguous term, really, because the difference between a hemp plant and a marijuana plant is just the amount of THC that's in it, which they just kind of like made up a random number at some point and said, okay, if it's below 0.03%, it's considered industrial hemp and industrial hemp plant. And if it's anything above it, it was considered a marijuana plant. So a hemp plant can become a marijuana plant in the field if it becomes overstressed, right? So let's say you have a CBD strain in the ground, and you end up having excruciatingly, high temperatures, or it gets cut too late. That can actually stress the plant out, which actually creates more THC in the product. So the plant itself can actually heal itself with some extra THC if it needs it to. But it's very interesting. So
it is very interesting.
Yeah, but so to say that they're different, they are different as far as classifications and as far as the government is concerned. But really, they're pretty much the same thing.
Does it start with the seed? So these seeds are CBD strain. These seeds.
Yep. Yeah. So it's all genetics, right? So it's all about what strain you're using, the genetics, and where it's coming from.
Okay. So I think I've seen it's saturated. CBD saturated. Every corner, banner, yard. It's
it is
mall.
The CBD craze, right? It is a craze right now.
There's more CBD shops or pop-ups than coffee shops.
Yeah.
Right now.
Right.
And now I go into
coffee shops that are selling CBD. So, right.
Coffee shops are selling CBD. Drugstores.
Grocery stores, gas stations.
There's a little kiosk or a little cardboard, cut out and get your CBD here. So people likely don't. Here's what I'm going to suggest. Again, go to Casey Hemp Co. They have a staff, including Heather and Kyle, who can literally answer every question you have about the product and how it can benefit you. I don't see that at a gas station. I don't see that at a Walgreens or a CVS. I don't see that at the grocery store, although you could ask the pharmacist, but no way he or she knows as much as you and Heather.
Yeah, it's unlikely.
Plus, you don't know what you're buying.
Yes, and that's kind of the part where we're at right now, and because the FDA hasn't set regulations, and as of a week or so ago, the last I read, they said within 8 weeks they are going to have the FDA regulations on CBD. So,
are you putting money on that? I'm not. 8 weeks. I'm putting no money on that.
So essentially we're talking about...
Meaning if I were a betting person.
Yeah, January 2020. So essentially they're looking to roll out their regulations on the CBD industry within, the end of the year.
State by state, county by county.
Well, that'll be national. So it'll be a federal... Yeah. So in other words, yeah. Yep. So now with that being said, each state does govern a little bit differently. So, on the Missouri side, actually, they had a really... we're really hard up on the edibles.
What do you mean hard up on it?
So
they all wanted some?
They quite the opposite. So Missouri was actually going in to CBD shops and they were making them pull all of their edible products, so like the gummies,
because they were skeptical about them containing
They just, for whatever reason, the food and beverage industry over there did not want anything to do with it. There was one particular bar that was in, I think, the Plaza area. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, they're making cannabis drinks or
CBD
drinks.
They were going to, and then the day that they were going to open up, the administration came in and was like, "If you serve these, we're going to shut you down." And
I saw that on the news.
yeah, and so they were really weird about it. Kansas they weren't really all that weird about it, surprisingly enough. It was like one of the few things that they were a little bit more relaxed on. So
maybe they took some of those gummies that they confiscated.
I guess so.
Sold them to the Kansans.
Got them into the right people, I guess. So.
We're making jokes about gummies, and speaking of, do we have a little something for Lettiann?
Yeah, definitely brought some here. So we got.
Thank you. I'm going to gnaw on one here while you're telling us about being cautious of knowing where the product comes from.
Yeah, where your hemp comes from definitely matters. So the hemp plant itself is actually a natural detoxifier of the soil. And so whatever is in that soil could end up in your bottle. So if it's not if it's not being organically grown, if there's heavy metals, pesticides, herbicides that are, being put on those plants, that's going to end up in your bottle too. And so it's very important wherever you're getting your CBD from that you're looking at third-party lab results that actually show you exactly what's in the bottle. So we put that on all of our bottles, and so it's actually, we have QR codes on the bottom of all of them, and so just so right there.
So you can right where it comes from.
Yeah, you can literally just take your iPhone if you
Can I scan that with my LinkedIn QR?
Pull your phone up there.
No.
Yeah, it will. I bet it will.
Let's just try it.
And then it goes straight in there, and you can see exactly what's in that bottle.
Keep telling us because I wouldn't know where to. I know where to go because I know you and Heather, and I trust you guys.
Yep.
And I love how concerned about what's going in the bottle or what's going in the lotion you are.
Yeah.
But someone just walking by the pharmacy counter and picks up something.
Yeah, and we hear it all the time. People come in and are like, well, I tried it and it didn't do anything for me. And it's like, okay, well, where did you get it from? How much CBD was in there?
And they say it's so expensive. I don't. And
it's expensive.
Isn't Amazon selling it?
So Amazon is selling it, and that's the last place that I tell people to buy your CBD from, because you have no idea what is going on or what's in that bottle and how it's gotten there either. So you just have to be really careful of where it's coming from. You want to make sure that you know the milligram strength that's in there. I can't tell you how many people have walked in with these random bottles, and it has nowhere on it does it tell you how much, what the strength is, how much CBD is actually in there.
So give us for example, maybe with a tincture. So
yes.
Pull one and say how much CBD is in it.
Yeah. So this one here shows you right on the front. It's got 500 milligrams of CBD in there. Okay. That's a pretty good place where we like to start people off at.
That's a full dropper.
So that's 500 milligrams in the whole bottle.
Oh.
So breaking it down, there's 30 milliliters in here. One dropper full is 1 milliliter. And so 1 milliliter is going to get you about 16.67 milligrams of CBD if it's a true 500 milligram bottle. And so your system, and 16 milligrams is a pretty decent dose of CBD. So we typically tell people to start out about half of a dose and do that once or twice a day. 8 to 10
milligrams?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And so about 8 milligrams is really where you start, where your system gets activated.
And that's with the 500 bottle.
Yeah, that's the 500 bottle.
Right. Mm-hmm. I wanted the 1,000 bottle when I was down there, and I was like, easy, big fella. Just start with the 500 and come back and let us know how it worked.
What happens if you take too much?
I don't know. What does happen if you take too much?
If you take too much, so really there's not, and see, that's the problem, is that there's not that really anything that's going to happen. If you take way too much, you might get a headache, you might get a little bit sleepy. If you take too much, you're just wasting it more so than anything. And it's an expensive product, and so you don't want to waste it if you don't have to.
Right.
And so it's just really about finding that maximum dose for you.
What's the best advice you can give someone who's considering CBD for something?
Yeah, best advice is to go in and talk with someone. And also, if you're on a bunch of medications as well, it really is best to talk to your doctor about it as well, especially if you're on like a high blood pressure medication or something, because CBD is going to actually naturally kind of lower, say, your blood pressure or whatever it is that you're working on, working to fix. And so you want to make sure that there aren't going to be an interaction. So, if you're taking, say, a statin or something for your high blood pressure, you could end up taking too much of that because your system's no longer needing as much as the dosage that your doctor has given you. So, you want to consult with a doctor if you need to, but just come in and see us. We can direct you to, the right products for you and the best way to use them as well. Let's
talk about children. So, I've heard this story. I know because we've talked about it before. For one, you don't have to be 21 to go in your shop. Is that right?
So you have to be 18 to buy CBD.
Okay.
But with that being said, some of my favorite testimonials are the kids that we have that are using it. So
tell us a story about it.
Yeah. So one in particular is a little autistic girl, and she was nonverbal. She would basically only eat plain spaghetti noodles. Wouldn't eat much. In terms of, branching out and eating different foods, and then had behavioral issues at school as well. So she started taking the CBD. It was helping her sleep better at night, which was, helping her dad, who, she had a single father, was being raised, just by him. And so, that was a great benefit for him as well. Like now he's getting more sleep, and she started eating more. She actually started verbalizing more. And so, she was talking, starting to say words, and we're talking about an 8-year-old girl here. And she just saw, magnificent benefits from taking it, and was doing better in school. He was getting calls from the teacher, like, what are you doing differently? Like, this is great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so, and we've got, handfuls of those stories of, children that have been using it and seen great results.
And even maybe some behavioral things that are happening at school, I think was one example that, so I guess what I'm trying to say is it's say if, with your parents' advice, direction.
Sure.
It's safe for children.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So,
it's safe for everybody.
It is safe for everyone. It's safe for, pregnant women. My wife is pregnant right now. And interestingly enough, CBD naturally occurs in breast milk. It's actually one of the components that they think actually helps, if you got a colicky baby, and they feed from their mom and now they're not so colicky. And one of the things that they think of is the CBD actually helps calm them down. That's found in the breast milk.
So will Heather take additional, I guess it depends on the child, I guess, but she has no problem taking it and during the pregnancy or maybe help her to sleep or.
Yeah, she usually takes the drops. Heather loves taking the drops for that. But any products will help with it.
Yeah. I just can't strongly encourage everybody enough to support local. Go see Kyle and Heather at KC Hemp Co. What's the address, Kyle?
Yeah, so we're in downtown Overland Park. We also distribute throughout the city as well. So being a manufacturer of the products, we sell it in our retail location, but then you can also find it on shelves of a lot of different places around town, chiropractors, massage therapists.
And KCHempco.com.
Yep, and order online at KCHempco.com.
Yeah, you can order online as well. I'm so happy for you guys, and I wish you all the best. And of course, we'll stay in touch. I appreciate the gummies. I'll probably pick up some dog treats for my pups as well. But thank you for being here, and we'll hope to see you back.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lettiann.
Awesome.